What's going on, everybody? Sam Shapiro back here with more of your Heat latest on FanArc. Is Miami going to pick up a win in this preseason? They still got 2 more games to figure it out, but before we dive into that, don't forget to drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for great daily content all pertaining to your Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. Miami picking up another loss in the preseason against the Orlando Magic yesterday as they fell 120-104, now sitting at 0-4 this preseason. And although it is the preseason, it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It's kind of annoying as a Heat fan to not see Miami at least get in the win column, at least at this point in time. They've still got opportunities against the Atlanta Hawks and the Memphis Grizzlies before the regular season tips off against the Orlando Magic in, quite honestly, not a lot of time now. So I'm not surprised Miami wasn't necessarily able to get in the win column yesterday, just because the vast majority of Miami's starters out from this game, with Norman Powell, Andrew Wiggins, Nikola Jovic, and Bam Adebayo all being sidelined from this game. And I just would have liked to at least see the supporting cast at least kind of step up in this role, with the exception of Khalil Ware obviously having another good scoring night. I'm going to get into that, but nobody really on the roster adding jaw-dropping numbers, at least in the plus-minus column. The majority of players being in the negative trend of that regard. So, quite honestly, it didn't really seem like Miami was playing that quality type of basketball, at least in transition, making a lot of impact plays. And they were kind of out of this game for the vast majority of it, being outscored in every single quarter. 32-37 in the first quarter, 23-25 in the second, 22-29 in the third, and then 27-29 in the fourth. So, although very close scoring margins, they were pretty much out of this contest kind of the entire time. So, there wasn't really a whole lot of opportunity, I feel like, for the supporting cast to kind of step up, but there were definitely a lot of opportunities for some guys that are deeper in the rotation to leave their mark. But before I get into at least one of the players that I thought was kind of able to make some sort of difference in that regard, at least through his overall play, I do want to talk about Khalil Wares in this performance. He had another solid scoring night in this one with 24 points in this game. He actually got the start in this one, finishing with 24 and 10 rebounds on 9 of 17 shooting, 2 of 4 from 3, and he put on another great display of where he can really score from pretty much anywhere on the floor, scoring on the outside, dominating the boards, obviously, for Miami as well. And although he also was not really efficient in the plus-minus column, being at minus 12 in this game. And I feel like we could have definitely seen a faster-paced play from the team overall. It seemed like, at least when he had the ball in his hands, the game was kind of slowed down, which hasn't really, I feel like, been working to Miami's favor. And although Ware did put up a good game, it definitely seemed like, in the absence with a lot of the starters kind of out, just the grand scheme of overall pushing the pace for Miami is definitely something that's still kind of in the works. But I definitely want to talk about this 4-game stretch we've seen from Khalil Ware over the course of this preseason. And quite honestly, a lot of the numbers that he's been putting up, at least in these 4 losses, have been very exciting to see, and definitely showing some inklings of the star he really could be for Miami, at least in the grand scheme of things. The first game he had 10 and 9, which nothing, jaw-dropping or shattering to kind of see. But in the 3 games following that, he had 18 and 13 against the Bucks. He had 29 and 12 against the Spurs. And then last night, he had 24 and 10 going off against the Orlando Magic. So definitely putting up some starter quality numbers, especially having him kind of come off the bench in the majority of those roles, or in those games rather. So that's a very promising thing to see. And I think, again, this is still going to be all eyes on how Khalil Ware kind of develops, at least through the course of this regular season. There's going to be a big question mark over if that will maybe allow him to potentially be a clear-cut all-star type of starter for Miami, I think, in his 3rd season. But he definitely is showing signs that he could possibly prove that, at least at some point in this regular season. And seeing these numbers makes me very hopeful that everything that Spoelstra is saying in terms of wanting to see more out of his play, he's definitely trending in the right direction. I don't think he's there quite yet. I definitely agree with Spoelstra in that regard in terms of the overall consistency, but at least that over these 4 games, with the exception of the first one, at least in these last 3, he's been a little bit more consistent. And again, this is the preseason, so we're taking this all with a grain of salt, but I think this is definitely positive things that we want to see out of Kalel, where at least with the absence of the main starters kind of out of the mix, that he can step up and really at least lead the charge in the scoring department, although it didn't really necessarily contribute to Miami ending up in the win column in this game, which is, I think, what Spoelstra wants to see. I think if he continues at least to bring this efficiency night in and night out, it can help lend itself to Miami potentially winning some more games in the future. So I'm gonna choose to be look at this a little bit optimistically and hope that if he continues this play up, that it will lead to success for Miami in the foreseeable future. And hopefully a lot of those points will come on impact type of plays that can kind of help Miami at least not fall back in terms of staying on pace with leading the charge in some of these games. And ultimately, like I just said, winning the majority of these games, or hopefully in years future, not leading to 0-4 and maybe helping one of those games kind of end up in the win column. And now another player that I wanted to talk about who had a pretty interesting night, at least on paper, from this game against the Magic was Jahmir Young. He had 18 points in this game, capitalizing on an opportunity at least where he had a lot more minutes compared to some of the other games that he has been able to play in over the course of this upcoming preseason. And the thing that really stuck out to me in this game was, yes, he had 18 points, but he also he was really playing starter quality minutes in this game. 32 minutes in this game compared to the 18 and 17 minutes he respectively played against Milwaukee and the Magic the first time. But he also shot the ball pretty efficiently in this one, shooting 6 of 11 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, and then also adding 3 steals to that performance as well. Definitely kind of showed off the two-way aspect to his game relatively well. But I will say, I believe a majority of those points, 8, pretty much came really at the end of the game when Miami was out of it. So I know Spoelstra saying, these stats are great, whatever, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot if it doesn't come at an impact point in the game and they don't really influence the, overall outcome of the game. I agree with him in that regard, that I think a decent amount of at least Young scoring from this game didn't really contribute to helping Miami try to bolster themselves back into this game. But at least when you're seeing numbers from this type of player that you're hoping can step up in a team that could potentially have a lot of question marks surrounding what the point guard position is going to look like, this is definitely a positive thing to look at as well. And it was nice to at least see Jahmir Young kind of capitalize on an opportunity where he could contribute at least in the scoring department for Miami's team, which I believe only had 4 or 5 players in double figures throughout the entire game. So again, happy that Jahmir Young had a quality performance. Again, it's the preseason, so we can't be too excited about this. Again, if it was a regular season game and it kind of helped Miami at least bolster themselves into more of a 5-point type of game, then I think this would definitely be a very, very exciting thing to see. But just because it didn't necessarily, I feel like, in terms of the scoring value he added at least to Miami's overall finish in this game, didn't really help bolster their chances of winning this game. It doesn't really mean a whole lot, and it definitely is not something to be overly super excited about. But it's definitely a good trend, at least for him, going in the right direction, competing with a lot of players like Ethan Thompson and Gabe Madsen for a potential long-term spot, at least on Miami's roster. So again, positive trend, but this is a positive trend for Miami, but it's got to be consistent, kind of in the same scenario that Kalel Ware is kind of looking at right now, and it's got to contribute to helping Miami get in the win column, at least at this point in time. And now lastly, I want to look at another player and kind of just how his play has kind of looked over the course of this preseason, that being Keshad Johnson. And what is really to make of this? I feel like he hasn't really done anything in this game that has kind of jumped off the paper for me. He hasn't scored in double figures in any of these last 3 games against the Spurs, the Bucks, or the Magic. And quite honestly, he at least didn't do a whole lot. He hasn't really been doing a whole lot. I think that just especially because of how I think fans were expecting a lot more out of him, at least and especially this game against the Magic. He had 25 minutes, but he also only had 4 points, 3 assists, and 3 rebounds. And I know I just started by listing off the 3 games prior to that, but this kind of is honestly trending in an even worse direction based on those 2 games prior, because those numbers he's kind of putting up with potentially, the best that Miami kind of has to offer. So seeing that he scored 4 points in this game and then 8, 8, and 3 respectively in the last three just kind of shows to me that he's probably going to be a guy towards, or at least might be stronger being a guy later in or deeper in Miami's rotation, and isn't really ready to take on a whole lot of minutes, and I don't think is necessarily going to contribute to Miami's ultimate success, at least at this point in time going into this regular season. He just doesn't seem like, it doesn't really seem like any area of his game is, or the strengths that he can bring to the table are contributing to really Miami ultimately being a successful team. And I'm hoping that I can see a little bit more consistent play out of him and hopefully at least trying to bolster Miami's game really in the defensive and rebounding department if he's not going to be a primary scoring option. Because again, 4 points in 25 minutes, especially when you have your starters out, is not really something that Miami can kind of afford to invest in right now. But drop in the comments what you want to see at least improve out of Keshad Johnson's play, because right now it doesn't really seem like he's bringing a whole lot to the table. And when he had an opportunity to really be one of those players to make a difference in this game for Miami, I feel like we didn't really see that going forward. But he still has a lot to learn. He still has a lot of experience to gain. And I think time will tell in terms of where he's going to fit in Miami's roster. But I think right now there are a lot of question marks, and I don't really see exactly what his niche or strong suit is that he could potentially focus on bringing to this team to help them get in the win column more often. But that's going to do it for today's episode of your Heat Latest here on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and of course subscribe to our channel for great daily content all pertaining to your Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. Thanks so much for joining us on this Monday. I'm Sam Shapiro. Have a great day.